Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about national associations and continuing education. These are two things that are very important. I know that many of you are just starting out and we are getting ready to become certified interpreters. And you're probably thinking, why is it important for me to start thinking about this now, about national associations and about continuing education? Well, very simple. You have to put yourself in that mind frame that you are already a certified interpreter and you are going to become certified interpreters. I have trained hundreds of them, and you will be one of these elite. You will be part of the elite group that will be certified. So let me put myself in the center of this slide, and you will notice that I have two associations. And one of the reasons that I put those two associations in this slide is because I believe that these are two of the most important associations in the country. No matter what state you're in, you want to belong to one of these two associations. And what are these two associations? Well, one is one that we call NAJIT. And NAJIT stands for the National Association of Judiciary Interpreters and Translators. Now, if you notice, it, this is an association that welcomes interpreters and translators, and they deal specifically, or they deal with subjects specifically that have to do with legal interpretation. Now, we have the American Translators Association, and although their name is translators, they also welcome interpreters. So, you don't have to be just a translator to belong to them. I'm a member of the ATA and I'm an interpreter. However, they also welcome many other types of interpreters, like medical interpreters, community interpreters. That's not to say that NAJIT does not also do that. So they both do the same thing, but one specializes more in interpreting and specifically legal interpreting, and the other one's a little bit broader, although it also, I mean, it deals mainly with the translation, but they accept all kinds of interpreters and translators there. So, but anyways, these are one of the two associations that you want to belong to if you're going to get into this business. Okay. Now, this is when now every state has their own associations. You want to start off with them too, but the reason I give these two is because some states may not have associations. Your state might, maybe it's too small, or maybe there aren't any associations. Maybe you're in Alaska, Hawaii. I know that almost every state has them, but if your state does not have one, I want you to know that these are available. Okay, but if you do have a local association that's close to your home and that's very active, please join that one first, because that will be more important for you. Now, if you're sometimes certain states don't have a certification; they only have federal certifications. So in those cases, there probably won't be local associations, and that's when you want to join one of these, NAJIT or the ATA. Okay. Now you're seeing my image in all these associations here. I'm not an association, but the reason I have these specific associations on the screen is because these are medical associations. Why do I have medical associations? This is a legal interpreter masterclass. Why medical association? Because as a court interpreter, you will probably also want to get certified as a medical. Now, I want you to remember this. In many states, for example, in California, if you are a court interpreter, you are allowed to interpret in med legal settings. They're called medical settings. For example, workers' compensation. Somebody gets injured, they have a medical appointment, they have to see an ortho doctor. They call in a legal interpreter. Either a medical or a legal interpreter can do that assignment. So, the court interpreters are allowed to interpret in these types of settings. So you don't need two certifications. A lot of interpreters still get the two certifications. Why? Why climb Mount Everest, right? They do it because they just want to have these certifications under their belt. Now, this may change in the future. Maybe in the future they're going to say, you know what, you have to be a medical interpreter to interpret in a medical setting. I know that many hospitals prefer that you have the medical certification instead of the legal certification. It happened to me before. I worked for a hospital. They said, "Are you a legal interpreter?" I said, "Yes, but I have both." And they frowned upon the legal certification. They wanted a medical certification. That can happen in certain instances. So it might be a good idea if you're a court interpreter to get certified as a medical interpreter as well. The cool thing is, again, with this master class, we're going to train you to pass both tests. So let's say you want to become a member of a medical association. You might even pass the medical certification before you pass the legal certification. So you might want to join these associations. I have a number of them here on my screen. I have CCHI, which is the Certification Commission for Healthcare Interpreters. I have the National Board, which is NBCMI. I also have NCIHC, the National Council on Interpreting in Healthcare, and the IMIA, the International Medical Interpreters Association. So we have all these associations. You could be a member of any of them. One's not better than the other. It's just they're different associations. Mm, I personally recommend, the three that I would recommend would be either to be IMIA or CCHI, if you want to start there. But I have no preference. I have no preference. Uh, Again, it's important if you start off as a medical interpreter to join an association. Why? Because they have a lot of free webinars. They have a lot of great information. The other important thing about associations, let's say you're a certified interpreter and you're a member of NAGIT. If you get in trouble by, let's say, some type of ethics violation, or there could be, many reasons why an interpreter can get in trouble, just like lawyers get in trouble. These associations will back you. Okay, they will back you in these types of circumstances. There's been cases in the past, so please remember that that's one of the reasons. And it's not only because you're going to get classes at a cheaper rate. That's important. Another big reason that you want to join these associations is because of networking. And you're asking, networking, what do you mean? Well, for example, most of the jobs that I obtained when I started off in this career, either in hospitals or in other places, is because of people that I knew. I met them at these conferences, and hey, I know you. Yeah, you're always active and you're always learning, and hey, I got a job for you. So this looks very good on you because it shows that you're active in the profession. You're always learning, because that's what these people get together to learn. They talk about not only educational subjects but also subjects that deal with the politics of the profession. So important. Okay, so these are the medical associations. In this slide, I just have a brief summary. We've actually mentioned all of these, but I'm just giving to you, if there's not an association where you live, you want to join one of these. So I have the American Translators Association, and they're not in this order because one is more important than the other. Just the National Association of Judiciary Interpreters and Translators, which is NAJIT. So those are the two big legal interpreting associations, if you will. More NAJIT than ATA. Then you have the big medical interpreting associations, which are CCHI, NBCMI, and IMIA. So you have the links there if you want to look into them. I give continuing education classes at my school, but you always want to shop around. Maybe I have a certain amount of classes, and maybe you want to learn about something that I'm not offering, or maybe they're not offering something. You want to look around in other schools. I always encourage people to join associations. They offer continuing educations. More importantly, the networking is important, especially if you're starting out. So here you have them. So you heard me talking about professional associations and continuing education. What is continuing education all about? Well, once you become a certified interpreter, and you all will become certified interpreters, and you have to envision yourself as an interpreter already. So we're talking about this right now. Once you become a certified interpreter, there are certain things that you have to do to maintain your license. In other words, to keep your license active. One of those things is that you have to do continuing education. What is continuing education? Well, you have to keep on training. Now, some states don't require this. Most do. California does, Texas does, Florida does. Okay. All these states do, but some states don't. Iowa just stopped doing it, by the way. So I used to get my courses approved by Iowa, and then they said, we're not going to ask for that anymore. Okay. So some states do, some states don't. Some state like Iowa just dropped it, but certain states are starting to that don't have it are going to start to do it. So I'm sorry, if your state does have this requirement, and most do, then you have to. And the reason they have it, it's unfortunate that some states are not doing it, because the quality of the interpreters are going to really is going to really decline, because interpreters are constantly faced with really difficult situations regarding terminology. They have these expert witness. You're going to have to interpret for a fingerprint expert. Okay. And you may say, well, I don't know anything about fingerprinting. Well, not if you're my student. Yeah, I'll train you with fingerprinting. Okay, I'm going to train you with a lot of things, but maybe you forgot. You took classes with me, and it's been 15 years that you've been interpreting, and you forgot about fingerprinting, and need to brush up. So you have to constantly be brushing up, learning things, and if not learning things, remembering things that you already knew. Okay? And this is what continuing education is all about, because we're in a profession where knowledge is of the utmost importance. Okay? It's not like you have your class prepared and you can look at your notes. That's not how it works. A lot of things that we do is on the fly, and they're very technical things, subjects. So continuing education is important. So a lot of states, what they do is they have this continuing education requirement. In California, for example, I'm giving just this state as an example. Each of you, once you get certified, you're going to have to look into what the requirements are for your state. And one of the reasons I don't do it for every single state is because maybe at the time of the recording, there's one requirement, and then a few months later, there's another requirement. So these things are always changing. But for example, just so you can have an idea, in California, we have you have to have 30 continuing education units. We call them SIMCs here in California. Every 2 years. That means every 2 years, to renew your license, you have to have 30 hours of training. In California, the 15 of these hours have to be instructor led. What is instructor led? That means you have to either be in a classroom, or you could do a webinar, but it has to be live. Okay? You're actually talking to the instructor. That is instructor led. Now, non instructor led could be a recording, or maybe some continuing education. They send you some pages, you read through them, answer some questions, and they calculate how many hours it takes to do all this, and then you get those credits. So that's what we mean by continuing education. So 30 hours every 2 years. That's pretty standard in a lot of states. The other thing is professional assignments. That's one requirement that we have here. That means that you have to do a certain amount of cases. You can't just have the license and not work. In California, we need to have a certain number of assignments every 2 years. That means here it's at least 40. Now, it's not too hard to get these assignments. For example, if you work in traffic court, you can easily do 20 assignments in one day. So that means in 1 or 2 days, some traffic courts you can do them all in one day, one shot. Is because you get so many assignments, and they're really quick, right? It doesn't matter if you take 10 minutes in one assignment or 10 weeks, that's one assignment, right? They only require that you do 40 assignments in a 2-year period. So that's another requirement. Not all states have that. You have to look into every state, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. My focus is on the continuing education. So, continuing education can be done either through associations like the ones that I mentioned before, or through private institutes such as Transinterpreting. Okay, so we offer that option as well. Just to give you a brief example of what these continuing education units would look like, I have here on your screen an example of a 3-hour machinery, tools, and equipment webinar. So and this is just an example of many of the kinds of things that you have to study or you can study when you do your continuing education. So I teach about machinery, tools, and equipment. You would ask yourself, why do I need to know about that? Well, it's very easy. If you work in workers' compensation, for example, you have a case and somebody gets injured at work and they got, I don't know, they were at a construction site and this accident happened and it involved a bulldozer, it involved a jackhammer, it involved, there's so many things that can, and he fell and then he fell in this ditch and then, so then you have all this technical vocabulary that you have to know and you don't know it, right? Maybe they didn't teach you that in interpreting school. I'm going to teach it to you, but maybe you forgot, or maybe it is something that I forgot. Maybe I don't teach you about cryptocurrency for some reason. You didn't get any classes on that, and you have to interpret in a case that deals with cryptocurrency. So you got to know about cryptocurrency. So you have all these subjects that you want to learn about, and you have these options. So this one's just an example. And if you notice on the lower left-hand corner, this one's approved by California, Colorado, Idaho, Iowa. Uh, it should have been Iowa. I don't know why they put IO. Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Utah, and some of them are even approved by even more states. So, you depending on your state, you look for classes that are approved in your state. You do them. This is an example of what you can learn in these continuing education classes. Okay, everyone. So with this, we are done with the national associations and the continuing education requirements for interpreters. We hope you enjoyed it, and thank you.